Jeez.
Hiya.
You have got to stop doing that.
Hey, what? That's not your shirt.
It's my shirt.
That's not supposed to be up there. That's supposed to be up there. Why is that in there? No, not naked Porky.
No, this is my shirt. I'm a person. Not a cartoon character who only has one shirt that they ever wear, if that. And it's
more like half a shirt.
Yeah, and it's time to move on. I mean, I need the space. Maybe one Looney Tunes Critic video a year, but I need the space. It's time to move on.
Are you saying that you're not the Looney Tunes Critic anymore?
I'm not saying that, but I am leaning towards that. Yeah, look, I'm getting really sick of the audience not growing. You see the numbers. You edit these videos. The channel's not growing. We're not getting the engagement we used to. I'm getting really sick and tired of people in animation hating my fucking guts and blocking me on Twitter before I even reach out to them. And I'm sure there was a third thing too, but I don't care anymore. It's just, I need the space and I need to move on.
But you can't stop yet. You haven't even done your annual Looney Tunes Christmas special.
I mean, I would if there was still something to do. I've covered every single Looney Tunes Christmas thing that there could be a review about.
If I can come up with something, a new subject that you haven't talked about before, would you reconsider folding up shop?
I would reconsider, yes. What do you got?
Christmas.
What about How the Grinch Stole Christmas?
It's Chuck Jones.
I know it's Chuck Jones, but everyone on YouTube has covered, on some capacity, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. They cover the same shit too. It's always, oh hey, did you know Boris Karloff didn't sing You're the Mean One, Mr. Grinch? Oh yeah, it was Thurl Ravenscroft. Oh, did you know that...
Wait. Ravenscroft didn't get the recognition that he deserves?
No.
But he's great! You get it? Because he was Tony the Tiger.
I get it. That joke was not great.
I know it was excellent.
Anyway.
Listen, I know that I'm green in my knowledge of the Grinch, but I'm sure that you can think of something to talk about.
You look good in green.
Oh, thank you. I always thought so. Yeah. I like green. Maybe that's why I recommended the Grinch. I just like green characters.
Well, he wasn't always green. I mean...
What are you talking about? He's like iconically green.
That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean he didn't start out a different color. He started out no color. And then he was green, like now, but he's also kind of... He was chartreuse, actually, because Maurice Noble wanted to make him feel kind of jaundiced and...
I smell a topic.
I'm glad you said topic. Ooh. But yeah.
We can talk about that! We can talk about the greenness! Alright, let me magic up some chairs. I did it. I just magicked 2 chairs.
You have a gift. After you.
I did that.
I don't get it. Why's she walking like that? YouTube will flag the channel if we show her butt. Really? Yep. So, we can have a bottomless fairy, we just can't show her bottom? There's a logic to it, and as many logics are, it's beyond you. Yeah, well, I guess I don't care. As long as we can still see her vagina.
And cuddly as a cactus, the Grinch.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You really are a heel.
This is topic number 1.
The outcast of Whoville, who's nasty as can be.
I must stop this whole thing.
He's about to pull every nasty trick he knows.
You're as cuddly as a cactus, you're as charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch.
Oh, I also magicked us up some microphones because I'm really, really, really good at being a fairy.
Yeah, you're great at magicking. In fact, that's actually first point of order. I'm going to need you to use the magic once again. If you could, for illustrative purposes, summon me a copy of the book, How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Ta-da! As green as can be. So green, I'm surprised you're not smoking him.
No, Dummy, this is not the book. This is not the book I wanted you to summon up.
But it's the book, and it's How the Grinch Stole...
Okay, my whole point about this is that he was not always green. That is a green Grinch.
Yes!
So you did your job wrong. Where is the actual... Okay, look at this. Look at this. Come here.
It's a book!
It's a book. It's not the book. It is a book. What does that say? Read what that book says right there.
It says, all rights reserved. I don't think we're supposed to put this on the...
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Keep going.
2021.
2021. This came out in 2021. Find me a copy. Summon me a copy of this book pre-2021, please.
How about I summon a please out of you?
I just said please. Please.
One more time.
Please.
It's funny. Ooh, shiny.
It is shiny, but what do you notice about the Grinch there?
He has red eyes like the devil.
Yeah. And there's some green here and there.
Uh-huh.
Where else is there green in that book, Twink? In fact, why don't we have a little race here? We'll take copies of our books and find the green. I already found some green. I win. Right here.
So far the Grinch is white.
The Grinch is very white, yes.
And the trees are white. All the trees are white, and the Grinch is white.
And the Grinch is too.
There's some pink and red. There's some pink
and red. We've got pink, red, green. We've got Twink, basically. We've got Twink colors, but not all in one place. We need to put both books together to get you. That's how great you are. But
all right, wait a minute. These books are my parents'?
Yeah. I don't want to tell you, but yeah, this is all
Mom?
Yeah. But look, this you can have that one, but this one, the full color edition, this was put out by the Seuss family. Mm-hmm. And do you know why?
Money? To make some green?
Voiceover. So there's very little, if anything, online about why the Seuss family chose to put this out last year. Or if it's true that way more generations are familiar with the modern green versions, why they waited so long. But it's ludicrous to suggest that Chuck Jones had nothing to do with him being green in this book, especially after they made him green in other specials, all of which came after the first one produced in 1966. Frankly, the only reason I can think that Chuck's not acknowledged somewhere in the beginning or the full color edition's liner notes is that by now, the Grinch being green is such a common thing. In fact, to portray him as white anymore is just weird. You'd have to explain why you were doing it because so many generations only know a green Grinch.
So you're telling me with 100% certainty that the Grinch, iconically green Grinch, has not always been green?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Amy. The Seuss family can rewrite history, create revisionist history. I don't know what the motivation for the full color edition was, but the one thing that, as long as there's people like me on this green earth, we'll be reporting the truth, which is the Grinch is green, whatever shade you want to call it. He's green because of this special, and more to the point, Chuck Jones.
Oh.
So if there's any doubt as to the impact of the first Grinch, heretofore referred to as the Chuck special, just to clarify itself from the other two Grinch specials, I will now attempt to break down the impact of Chuck Jones's Grinch. Now, there's only two more Grinch specials after this one, and interestingly enough, they're both produced by DFE, the animation studio run by Chuck's fellow Warner Brothers Animation Director alum, Friz Freleng. DFE, or DePatie Freleng Enterprises, did a much better job of staying on model to Seuss's original designs, which is definitely one of the reasons why Chuck Jones Enterprises only made one more special for Seuss, that of Horton Hears a Who. Apparently, the only property that Seuss trusts Jones with are the Who's. But to the trained eye, Grinch and Horton both look like a Chuck Jones cartoon, and to the untrained eye, and more to the point, not a Seuss cartoon. DFE made almost all of the Seuss specials, including the two Grinch ones, Halloween is Grinch Night, and The Grinch Grinches the Cat in the Hat, a title which sounds oddly sexual. And while they made no attempts to replicate Jones's personal art style, which is used throughout How the Grinch, the one thing they did keep is the Grinch's green color. Also, I should note two things here. One, Friz Freleng wouldn't want or try to emulate Chuck's art style, as their training comes from the golden age of Warner Brothers, where directors of animation often drew a lot of the art themselves and in their own styles. But also, where style was concerned, Seuss himself most wanted to see his own style first and foremost, like any cartoonist would. But the second thing he was a stickler about was color. Dr. Seuss, or the man himself, cartoonist Ted Geisel, knew a lot about color, and this is one way in which he, Chuck, and Friz were alike. They were also all concerned with maintaining their own vision. Yet it's still interesting that, despite having disagreements with Chuck during the first Grinch special, Seuss decided to keep the Grinch green.
Okay, so he was white in the book, but he's been green in animation ever since, so...
Oh, no. You're going to eat those words later on, my friend.
Oh, with ketchup? So hungry. What do words taste like? This is a microphone. Does it taste like words?
All right, I want to talk about Seuss.
Can we deep fry the words?
Chuck. I want to talk about
Can
Seuss
we season
and Chuck's
it? We got to season it.
Here.
Mayonnaise. Oh,
Put
yeah.
that in your mouth.
Okay.
Shut up. So yeah, Seuss and Jones, they'd worked together before, and of all places, Warner Brothers. So the love affair that would ultimately end in creative divorce began at Warner Brothers. That is, if we're talking about Seuss and Chuck. The love affair that began at Warner's and thrived at DFE was about Seuss and Friz, but that's as maybe. At any rate, Friz didn't work any more directly with Seuss at Warner Brothers than Chuck did, and actually, Seuss never really worked at Warner Brothers at all. I'll explain. If you're unaware, the Warner Brothers character that will probably never come back, even if only because it's in the public domain and you really can't make any money off of that stuff, is Private Snafu, a dimwit private in the Army who does everything wrong. The Army enlisted Warner's during World War II to make these shorts to showcase various things one must remember while in the field. And yes, if you pieced it together, Snafu is indeed an alliteration for situation normal, all fucked up. Or foul, if you will. In fact, Twink, you are represented in these Seuss pen shorts. There's one called Gripes, with a fairy who grants Snafu ultimate power, and of course he goes overboard, giving every man 2 ladies. And of course Snafu has his own half-naked girls too. So, the man pixie comes back to yell at him, which means, Twink, at one point, there is a fairy right next to a lady with no pants on. Anyway, there are a number of these shorts that Seuss worked on as a writer, and one of them, Spies, is written in his signature rhyming narrative.
Hello, baby. Hiya, pussy. Say you're a nifty trick. I hope I meet some babes in Africa as cute as you are.
The other Snafu short that has Seuss hints is Rumors, because a lot of the magical characters look to be interpretations of his designs. I should say that he had established the Seuss brand, so to speak, by this time. His first book, And to Think I Saw It All on Mulberry Street, came out in 1937, and these Snafu shorts went into production in the 40s. By this time, he had not only designated himself with the moniker of Dr. Seuss, he had also become a master of his craft, and had already figured out, with sculpture and oil paintings, in addition to the pen and ink in which he flourished, what his look, and moreover, color palette would be. Chuck Jones was new to directing when these Snafu shorts were made, but he had already established his own personal art style, and a rapport with the animators in his unit, a group that would, over the next 20 years, become adept at delivering Chuck's great artistic vision, personality animation, and great timing. Of all the Warner Brothers animation directors, I posit that Chuck was probably the best draftsman, and by the time he'd gotten to MGM, he'd brought his animators, his background and layout artist Maurice Noble, and 20 years of animation directing acumen and knowledge, including razor-sharp timing. This is the guy who gave us the best Roadrunner cartoons, you guys. And that timing could only be done with bar sheets. as we see here.
Up the chimney.
Meanwhile, as pertains to the timing in his personal and professional life, Jones had gone a long time without having to compromise his personal art style and, by and large, getting his way. And right after the Grinch special, he went on to do the Pogo special, birthday special, actual name. And there he brought similar problems. If you don't know, Pogo was a newspaper comic drawn by Walt Kelly, and much like Seuss, it had its own look. Chuck rewrote and redrew Walt Kelly to the point that Kelly and Jones stopped speaking during production, making Benny Washam the sole designated communicator between these two geniuses. Washam had also been an animator at Warner's and Jones's unit since day one, including those snafu shorts, and he co-directed both the Grinch and Pogo specials. I think it may have been out of necessity, at least in the case of the latter. At one low point, Chuck showed Benny a Pogo layout drawing he did, of which he was very proud, and rhetorically asked, "Who does Walt Kelly think he is?" The ego was knee-deep in that workspace. Yeah, I want to thank Animation Resources, by the way, for that clip of the timing bar sheets. And if you want to read the whole article that came from, link in the description.
And since we're shamelessly plugging things, I'm going to shamelessly plug my boyfriend, Manx, or as we know on the blogosphere, Wacky Manx Wackadoodle Vic.
Wacky Manx Wackadoodle Vic.
Because he just now got into writing parody songs.
It's like a Weird Al Yankovic. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, the best jokes are the ones you have to explain. Anyway, here's Wacky Manx Wackadoodle Vic with his rendition of You're a Mean One, Mr. Jones.
You're a mean one, Mr. Jones. You really are a Whoa, dude.
Anyway, would you say that there was like friction between Chuck Jones and Dr. Seuss? It's my show now.
It ain't your show yet, Thigh Pit. Thigh Pit, I like that name. I live on victorious in the voiceovers, Twink. But yeah, my brazen theatrics aside, you could say that Chuck and Seuss did indeed have friction. I don't know the particulars on Chuck and Seuss's working relations when he made The Grinch, or before that. I do know that the main reason Chuck didn't get to produce the 1989 The Butter Battle Book animated special involved Seuss being not so pleased with Chuck, as he tended to redesign his artwork. It does need to be said that just because you can draw a character for a comic book or in illustrations, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a design that can work for animation. There was brief friction between Peanuts creator Charles Schulz and animation director and ex-Warner Brothers animator Bill Melendez when trying to translate Snoopy from newspaper comic to animation. Like, for example, it's a delicious visual to show Snoopy's black ears with cross-hatching or scribble-scrabble, or Lucy's black hair with a white highlight shape. But it would be a pain in the ass to animate these things. So for the TV specials, Snoopy's ears and Lucy's hair are solid black. However, neither Schultz nor Melendez were egomaniacs, which is why every single piece of Peanuts animation made during Schultz's lifetime was made by Melendez. But much like Schultz, and even Walt Kelly, Seuss felt that his look, character designs, backgrounds, and even color palette should not deviate one iota from what was printed in his books. At the point Butter Battle was being pitched by Seuss's agents to become an animated special, Seuss didn't want Chuck doing it, and nearly all other cartoon producers in LA weren't crazy about working with the famed Ted Geisel either. The man could be extraordinarily picky and reserved the contractual right to get anything redone to his exact specs if he gave the word. That very thing had happened earlier in the 1980s between Seuss and the Marvel Animation Studio, when Seuss decided he didn't like the color, more likely a specific shade of a specific hue, used on hundreds and hundreds of painted cells in one of his primetime specials, and Seuss made the penny-pinching production head Lee Gunther repaint every single one. Seuss, in that regard, was rather like the Stanley Kubrick of animation, which sent chills down cartoon producers' already soft spines. Only a certified madman would be willing to take a shot at working with Seuss in 1988 with such conditions in play. Enter Ralph Bakshi. Despite what all the many industry naysayers quietly predicted, Ralph and Seuss got along very, very well.
So you're telling me, out of all the animation studios in LA, Dr. Seuss liked Ralph Bakshi the most?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess I can see it. I mean, Dr. Seuss himself was very good at making cool worlds. That's funny. I'm funny.
You missed. Anyway, back to the voiceover. Ralph knew that the only way to please Seuss was to hew as closely as possible to everything on the page in the Butter Battle book. And he did. Because Seuss had used pure process ink color in the book, Bakshi Animation matched that very saturated hue and intensity when color keying the special, and Seuss loved it. Seuss charitably tossed a bone to Chuck, arranging for him to be paid very well as a consultant on the special, which actually involved his coming to meet with Ralph. And the one really good suggestion Jones made was for Bakshi to hire Maurice Noble as production designer. Chuck also pulled an under-the-table move to sandbag the efforts of Ralph's artists by doing his own character designs. They, of course, looked very late-period Chuck Jones-ish, meaning shit. But Seuss preferred the Bakshi stuff because it looked just like his designs from the book. Seuss was so enamored of that animated special that he told Ralph he wanted to continue collaborating and for Ralph to animate an entire Dr. Seuss theatrical feature, which would have included all of his characters. Ralph considered the unexpected offer, but he never really wanted Bakshi Productions to become an animation service studio, and, as Seuss was, even as far back as 1988, already terminally ill, a fact that was not well known then, Ralph may have questioned the wisdom of embarking on such a potentially tenuous project at that point. Most cartoon producers probably were wary of Seuss, but Ralph isn't wary of anyone, so the two engaged well in their sessions. Seuss was invigorated by Ralph's unique approach, most likely. But it was not to be, and after he did end up working on the project, as per Jones's suggestion, Maurice Noble let it slip out to a few of the artists at Bakshi's that Seuss was not in the best health.
Some people call him Maurice. Remind me who Maurice Noble is again.
Well, actually,
But not before we pay some bills. Play us out, Manx and Iggy.
Oh, that fucking wacky Manx wackadoodlevic shit.
I thought we were freeze framing.
You weren't green once, Mr. Grinch. Your pelt was lily white. But they made you green for TV and they changed you overnight, Mr. Grinch. You're a Grinch of a different color, and it ain't right.
Dr. Seuss, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Sponsored by McDonald's. It's a good time for the great taste of McDonald's.
It's a good time for the great taste of McDonald's.
Hi, welcome back. Did you guys like the ads? Did you buy stuff?
Patreon.com/Ferris Wheelhouse.
Yeah. So you were going to tell me about a guy named Maurice Noble.
The great Maurice Noble. Mm-hmm. There was not one more noble than that of the great How dare you? Not one more noble than the great Maurice. In fact, his name, like many in animation, lends itself to pun, as we see in the book the Noble approach. Maurice Noble was the kind of artist that we rarely see in animation today. That is, an artist who went to school for art and design, not animation. There was no animation school back then, and frankly, I feel as an industry it would drastically improve if there was no animation school now, but that's as maybe. Long before animation was a brightly colored lure to get kids to buy ugly toys, it was the product of artists and drafters who only obeyed the demands and sciences of appealing design. And one of these demands of appealing design was good color, and that's why it's no surprise to me that if you look at Noble's IMDb page, there's a lot of TV animation work, but only one episode of anything where he was used as a color stylist. Because why the fuck would a TV animated show care about color? Here's why I say this. TV animation in the 80s, along with a lot of it in the 90s and on in today, had or has terrible color. The 80s was the absolute worst of it, as by 1991, shows like Ren and Stimpy and Beavis and Butthead had successfully shaken things up, but it's a bad habit that continues to this day, and the reason color is at its worst in the 80s in animation is because of a study that was misinterpreted, if it was interpreted at all, by young, shitty, coked-up Hollywood animation execs. The study said that children respond well to bright colors, and that is the only part of the study that these execs paid any attention to. The study had several bland colors that were shades of one bright color of a desired object, and each time a child gravitated toward the bright version of those colors. But without understanding that the bright color stood out because it was surrounded by regular shades and hues, therefore making it easier to zero in on, the execs had the artist paint everything the brightest color it could possibly be, making nothing stand out and everything looking garish. And the remnants of this misunderstanding took its toll over the ensuing decades on many an animation studio, including the one that should absolutely know better. I don't know if it's a coincidence or a deliberate stance on his part, but based on a number of things I've heard, some I'll touch on later on, I can't imagine Maurice Noble would have the patience to deal with the resistance 1980s TV animation had to common artistic sense. Also, a lot of the art of color styling has to do with not just knowing what colors work best together for which scenes and emotions that you want to convey in said scenes, but in knowing what color paint to use in order to have the right colors show up on film. And also, what type of film. A lot of studios used Technicolor, but MGM, which is the studio that put out the Chuck special, used Metrocolor, a self-branded version of Eastman color.
Eastman, he came out of the East to do battle with the amazing Rondo!
And Maurice Noble knew all too well that both with Eastman and Tech, in order to achieve a golden yellow on screen, one had to paint the cell or paper chartreuse. So basically, if you wanted this color, you had to paint with this color. So, Alice in Wonderland, Disney's Alice in Wonderland. If you were, say, you're a fan?
I do like Alice in Wonderland.
Let's say you're a fan of Alice in Wonderland.
The first one, the cartoon.
Twinkle, twinkle.
So, let's say you wanted to get your hands on an original production cell.
Mm-hmm.
And then you looked at it and you noticed the color didn't look quite right.
Okay.
And that's because, you know, now with HD, everything, you know, you're not painting, but even if you were doing painting cells, you could still capture it with high def cameras. And essentially the paint color that you pick is the color that the character is going to be.
Yeah.
But this is back in the day. This is, it's not as simple as that. It's so the colors, like her hair isn't butter yellow like it is on the Blu-rays and the DVDs. It's like pale neon green. But that's not wrong. That's the paint color that they actually used.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
But how were they able to tell what colors would register on film?
The lost color chart, as I've been calling it for almost 2 years now. The lost color chart. So even though we're talking about The Grinch, which was, as previously mentioned, shot on Metrocolor, aka Eastman color, the lost color chart itself existed as a guide for Technicolor. And Alice in Wonderland was shot on Technicolor, as it's a feature film. That's what you do. So back when I did the Daffy Duck's Quackbusters review, I mentioned doing a part 2, which would be more about the way the cartoons featured in the movie hold up better than the restorations of the individual cartoons themselves. Now, it may not be a part 2 to the Quackbusters review, but I still intend to do an extensive video about the restorations and the difference between digital and photochemical ones. But during research for that project, I came to learn of this color chart, but it was truly the stuff of legend. It was said to be just what it sounds like, a chart full of color swaths. However, there were said to be very few of them and supposedly no pictures were taken of them, which made finding any information about these charts online impossible. I reached out to a few of the old-timers in animation that I know. Most of them hadn't heard of the chart. Then, almost a year later, one person said something interesting. They told me there's a description of a Disney studio tour made during the production of Snow White in, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Reed Mittenbuller's Wild Minds book, wherein this tidbit pops up. The ink and paint department also had a spectrophotometer, one of only 20 in the world, to measure the colors precisely. A poster on the wall showed how the tones would translate into Technicolor. The notes section at the back of the book cites that this passage was lifted from Richard Schickel's The Disney Version, published in the late 1960s. I know that Schickel spoke with many old Disney veterans, and this description no doubt came from one or more of them. So yes, the Lost Chart, the Phantom Disney Studio Technicolor Cell Paint Comparison Chart, which hardly anyone remembers today, did exist.
Okay, but you said that I was going to eat my words about saying that the Grinch was always green. It's been like 5 hours, and I have still not eaten any words. And you know what? I'm really hungry. And
you ate the hell out of my Milano cookies.
They were good.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I feel for you, and you're a guest here in my home. It's been a while since I've been to the grocery store, so I went to the kitchen during the break. I went and looked around. There's nothing in there. But I do have, and I will share with you, my last can of Who Hash, because it's Christmas.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Don't say I don't ever do nothing for you. Anyway, you're gonna eat your words about him always being green, but I need your help. I need you to magic me up some DVDs. I need every home video version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the 1966 version, and not the version that shall not be named. Although if you want to, fine, fuck it. But yeah, I just bring it all up because I got a point to make.
Magic, 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 magic. I did it.
Wow. Okay, well, you sort of did it. I agree that you summoned these up, but, let's start off with the fact that there's no laser discs. I don't see any laser discs.
I see any laser discs.
Then, in looking for the Grinch 50th anniversary, a DVD, which is itself red, you came close. This is the 50th Looney Tunes anniversary. So good luck there. The one that shall not be mentioned somehow manages to show up anyway. So, I mean, you're not necessarily on your game, but you're
I'm sorry, I'm not on my game. Well, maybe I just have a headache from all these stupid voiceovers that you're subjecting me to.
All right, well then, you know what? We'll talk for a minute. Real talk right here.
Real talk.
Let's talk about these things. First of all, this is the Ultimate Edition. Came out, I think, in 2006, I believe.
Yeah.
The funny thing about this is that it came without ribbons, it came without tags, and you can't see the quote because it's covered by a tag. But yeah, this thing...
It's got Max on it, though.
Yep.
Aw,
That's for you.
I love Max.
But there's a reason why these covers look the same. Wow. Shattered. Happens every time. It's weird. But yeah, there's a reason why these look the same.
Oh, they are. Yeah, they're basically the same thing.
Because they're the same fucking thing.
Oh.
It's also true of that. It's also true of what would have been the 50th one if you'd managed to get that right.
It's almost like you didn't have the prop for it.
I don't think that's even a thing. The one that's different, though, the one that really this whole thing is about, is this one that was restored in the early 2000s, very early 2000s. And he's not necessarily green.
I mean, he's green right there, but...
All right, yes. Well, he's green right there. Thank you, Miss Technicality. And yes, since I'm in voiceover mode now, I can get technical and point out that this restoration was actually put out in 1999. But the Grinch is not green on this DVD, at least not traditionally green, as we had seen him previously on TV and on VHS and Laserdisc releases, and not disgustingly bright neon green, as we've seen in the DVD and Blu-ray restorations that came out after this release. You can find, if you look, some negative reviews out there of this release, although it's the internet, you don't really have to look that hard, where people ask for the color to be fixed. But people only know what they see, and nobody ever got to see production drawings of the Grinch, at least not readily and at the touch of the button on the internet in 1999. But there is evidence to suggest, in storyboard drawings by Chuck and this Grinch color guide that I'm pretty sure he drew, that there was at least an attempt to make the Grinch more of a chartreuse olive color, because then it would imply sickness. I spoke about all of this with one of my frequent collaborators, Greg Duffel, a retired animator who had his own studio in Canada, and over the decades worked with many of the legendary Looney Tunes artists, including Jones and Noble. Here's what he had to say. I know that Maurice Noble was horrified when the Warner people showed him the color-corrected version they had done in the early mid-1990s. The digital transfer occurred around 1995. I am not sure I heard it directly from Maurice, but the drift of it was that the unit that was making a restoration of the Grinch made a point of specifically inviting Maurice over to a screening of their work. As far as I know, he had no prior involvement in this work, nor was he brought in to consult. The Warner people were very proud of what they had done, but Maurice said they'd got all the colors wrong and was really upset about it. He felt they had ruined the film. I'm not exactly sure of the timing, but it would have been between 1995 and 2000. I know that's a wide time range. I asked Mr. Duffel if he could contact the person, who shall remain nameless, that he believes he heard this story from. But before we hear more on that, I want to clarify that Greg says Noble was not consulted on this early restoration, but I'm saying he kind of was. Because why else would they show it to him if they weren't on some level interested in his opinion? But it does make sense that they only brought him in at the end, because people in charge of restorations don't typically care to seek out early production art, or, for that matter, the help or even approval of the original color stylists.
So you're telling me that out of all the restored DVDs, this is the only one where the original colorist was consulted?
I mean, I'd love to elaborate, but yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
That sucks. But well, then how are they able to reference the color for the other DVDs? What did they use for reference?
The cells.
You mean that shitty Jennifer Lopez movie?
You may have to be a little more specific, Twink. There's a lot of shitty Jennifer Lopez movies, but the cells, not the cell, the cells are referenced a lot of the time when they do these post-2000 restorations. And whether or not you agree with this particular shade of Grinch restoration, I would argue that it's the only time that Warner Brothers restored animation with the original artist's color choices in mind. And yeah, that's a big claim. It is a big claim, Twink. I can feel your look. Am I saying that they've had the technology since the 2000s to make the colors whatever they want, with the only hope being that insipid children will get addicted to the bright colors like crack, so that mom and dad will buy them the corresponding neon purple plastic toys? Well, yes. Yeah, I'm actually saying that.
Okay, all right. We are going to take a quick ad break. Well, I call our lawyers.
All I really said. If you
Hi,
from
yeah. We have a problem.
Ferris wheelhouse, rock, rock, rock. Ferris wheelhouse, rock, rock, rock. Ferris wheelhouse, rock, rock, rock. Ferris wheelhouse, Ferris
Don't be fooled into thinking that a drink will make your problems go away. It won't. Alcohol only adds another problem. Be smart. Don't start.
Oh, thank God. Okay. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Love you too. All right, bye. Yeah, so apparently the law has our back as long as we make it clear that you're only speculating. Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
Well, I'll say what I want. In fact, that's not even the half of it. Warner Brothers, who absorbed the rights to the Chuck special from MGM and put it out on DVD, I'm saying that they've never gotten the color of the Grinch right in any of these releases. Using the literal colors of the cells to judge how the colors on the Blu-ray would look or should look, that's a step backward, not forward. Although, considering that we are still operating in a post-80s color spectrum now, those bright cell colors look more like animation does now anyway. Which is to say, garish. So that's probably why it was referenced. And besides, I doubt that they did it to sell more art, as the cell business ain't what it used to be. Granted, that shade of bright neon green that we see in the cells and the Blu-ray, when that shade of green is photographed through Metrocolor, it probably doesn't look like honey mustard. But as we've already seen, there's evidence to suggest that at some point Chuck and Maurice wanted him to be that shady shade. And even though Grinchy Pants was green originally, several Ceracells and promotional art in the subsequent decades made by Chuck and company show a faded green Grinch, not a bright neon green Grinch at all. See? Look. Just regular green. But anyway, I like the color of this first restoration, and I think it makes sense for the Grinch to be that color, as it absolutely reflects his mood. Bright neon green does not. He's not bright. Well, he's clever, but he's not happy-go-lucky. At least not until the end. So basically that scene, I think this argument can really be illustrated by that scene where his heart grows and the eyes change color and he realizes that Christmas doesn't come from a store. You'll notice the background changes color, as do the eyes. And that's because originally they wanted just the eyes to change, because obviously he was red, now he's, all that stuff. But they realized people's TVs were so small back then, they might not even see the eyes change color. So that's why the color changes from purple to yellow. But I took the jaundiced yellow restoration that we're talking about, and the one that everyone knows, which again I think is more of a Christmassy green, and I sunk it up so that it goes from the old one to the new one along with the eyes. And tell me what you think.
It came without packages, boxes, or bags. He puzzled and puzzled till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps.
I love watching movies. I liked it.
Like that?
Yeah.
And doesn't it feel more like he's now, like it?
He's
Christmas
at
is,
one with the Who's.
yeah,
the Christmas-loving
Christmas
Who's.
is all in his body, and it's just I color is a storyteller, and it really aids the aids.
Rich
process.
Evans is going to sue us.
It's fine, but yeah, it's at least we get to meet him.
That would be lovely.
But yeah, color helps tell the story, and stuff like that. When they get it wrong, it fucks it up. Voiceover.
You seem sad about it.
Yeah, well, I am very sad about it, Twink, but not more so than Maurice Noble himself. But I'll get to that. Also, speaking of things I said I would get to, Greg Duffel heard back from his friend that knew Maurice very well, and in a minute, I'll read what he had to say regarding this color issue. Greg also mentioned something that can be pointed out here. When it goes from the 90s restoration to the Blu-ray in my little edit here, you can see that the Santa suit red also changes color a little bit. And that's because, according to Duffel, Metrocolor, aka Eastman color, adds red hues, which made it unpopular for animation production. To quote Greg, well, Eastman would add a lot of red. That's the problem with Eastman for cartoon production. You tone the red down in transfer and the green will start to pop. which would explain why his Santa suit in comparison of those two frames is brighter in the mustard yellow version. Anyway, Twink, as happy as the color scheme was always intended to be, by making the Grinch a bright neon green rather than a jaundiced golden yellow, or even a slightly pale light green as we saw in the pre-digital days, he's only at odds with the Who's because he lives outside of the village. But there's no physical difference if he's a cheery green color and they're all cheery colors too. You see, that's, if I can preach for a minute here, that's something that animation used to do. It used to represent things visually. That's what I meant when I said that thing earlier about Maurice Noble not concerning himself with color on TV productions. There wasn't any point. Logical color choices in animation, specifically TV animation, don't exist today. Anyway, I'm going on a rant. But anyway, here's what Greg's contact to Mr. Noble had to say about all of this. I don't remember that particular story about the Grinch, though he was pretty critical of any of his work that was re-released on different formats by the studio. At another point, Maurice was also asked to sit in when the studio was remastering some of the Looney Tunes. He said the colorist sort of ignored his suggestions and basically turned up the saturation on all the cartoons. Maurice became upset and never attended another session. One of the sections of his book that the publisher cut were examples of how color was seen on the actual background and how it would change hue when shot on film. I have a lot of the wedge tests Maurice had shot from the mid to late 1950s, including several examples of tests that he rejected, readjusted, and had reshot. Maurice was invited to the live-action premiere of The Grinch, after which he cried profusely and exclaimed, "They've ruined it!"
They made Maurice cry?
Yeah.
They made Maurice... They can't make him cry.
They did.
He's a joker, smoker, and a midnight toker, and they just made him cry?
Yeah.
What? How? Why? Explain. What do you mean?
I mean, by this time, when the Jim Carrey movie, the movie that shall not be named, came out, this is my opinion, it's speculation, but by this time there was at least 4 screenings where Warner Brothers asked him to come out and they asked for his opinion and then they didn't take it. I'm sure that has something to do with it too, but yeah, it is a bad movie. And yet I'm sure it did feel like a backstab to him. That's what Greg Duffel's friend, who was friends with Maurice, told me.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
You know what you have to do now, right?
No, but I'm all ears.
Oh, you've watched Best of the Worst enough. You know what you have to do. Magic, 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 magic.
Ah.
I can't destroy things. I'm a fairy because I'm cute and nice. I can't destroy it, but you can destroy it.
All right. So, any last words?
Hate, 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 double hate, loathe entirely. Holy fuck.
That's for making Maurice Noble cry.
Do you want to know how dedicated Trevor was to that bit? He smashed that near very expensive recording equipment.
That's how mad I am.
Don't make Maurice cry.
I'll make Trevor mad. You wouldn't like Trevor when he angry, or when he in voiceover mode. But I was indeed devoted to the bit, my half-naked highness, because at least I was destroying something that was itself the result of destruction. And this review is destructing as we speak, because let's face it, I have a lot of theories, but they don't really go anywhere. I pointed out that everybody working on this special were experts in both designing solid color palettes and getting them to show up on film. I talked about the history of Seuss's ongoing struggle for perfect color. I talked about production designer Maurice Noble's frustrations with later restorations. I even talked about how this can affect the storytelling process, and yet, I still have absolutely no idea why the Blu-rays are being made to look like the cells, or even why the first restoration tried to have the Grinch look like he did during pre-production. Honestly, I don't have any answers. I just have more questions now. Sorry.
That's it?
Yeah, basically. That's all I got.
That's how you're wrapping this up? That's how you're ending the video?
To be fair, Twink, I didn't plan for a video today, all right? I got up and I started taking the set down. And then you showed up. This was all your idea. The subject was your idea. And I think, to be fair to me, everything I came up with off the top of my head. So give me some space here on that.
Okay, well, what about our agreement? I gave you a topic, and you were able to do a whole video on it. So now you have to keep being the Looney Tunes critic, and you can't pack up shop.
No, if you remember, I said if you came up with a subject and we did it, I would reconsider. I have reconsidered. The answer's still no. One Looney Tunes critic of video a year.
Fine. I didn't like doing these videos with you anyway.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that you don't have to do the videos with me.
Yes, you are. Where can we be? We're parodies of Looney Tunes cartoons that you came up with while stoned off your ass. And if you're not the Looney Tunes critic anymore, then you don't need us anymore.
Twink, look around. Look at the channel. Me and Manx do riff videos all the time.
We've been trying
to get you to do a riff video for a while. Iggy's got his own projects going on. You and Manx never talk about cartoons on AMA every Monday.
No.
What are you worried about? You're not going anywhere. Keep your pants off.
So you still want us around?
Of course.
Yay! Oh my goodness, I feel like my wings are growing 2 sizes this day.
I noticed that, actually. They're bigger.
Oh yeah, I'm growing them out.
Nice.
But yay, but now, this is wonderful. This has been the merriest Christmas that I think I've ever had.
Aww.
That's a wonderful way to end this video.
How?
With some Christmas cheer. Take it away, boys.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You really are a heel. You're as cuddly as a cactus. You're as charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch. You're a bad banana with a greasy black peel. I never thought I could sing. You're a monster, Mr. Grinch. Your heart's an empty hole. Your brain is full of spiders. You've got garlic in your soul, Mr. Grinch. I wouldn't cut you with a 39.5 pole. You're a vile one, Mr. Grinch. You have termites in your smile. You have all the tender sweetness of a seasick crocodile, Mr. Grinch. Given the choice between the two of you, I'd take the seasick crocodile. Good choice. You're a foul one, Mr. Grinch. You're a nasty, wasty skunk. Your heart is full of unwashed socks. Your soul is full of gunk, Mr. Grinch. The 3 words that best describe you are as follows, and I quote: stink, stank, errata, Mr. Grinch, the king of simple thoughts. Your heart's a dead tomato splashed with moldy purple splots, Mr. Grinch. Your soul is an appalling dung heap, overflowing with the most disgraceful assortment of deplorable rubbish imaginable. Mangled up in tangled up knots.
Why? That's not supposed to be in there. That's supposed to be up there. Why is that up there? Why are those in there? Not naked Porky.
Bring it all up because I got a point to make.
Magic, 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 magic.
Keep going. No, keep going.
Magic, 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 magic.
It hasn't registered yet.
Magic, 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 magic,
almost
magic,
there.
magic, magic,
Do it
magic,
for another
magic,
28
magic.
minutes.
Wax on, wax off, wax on.
You nauseate me, Mr. Grinch, with a nausea super nos. You're a crooked jerky jockey and you drive a crooked hoss, Mr. Grinch.
You're a three-decker sauerkraut and toadstool sandwich.
With arsenic sauce.